Hello, my name is Michelle Clifton Soderstrom. I teach theology and ethics here at North Park Seminary, and for this segment of our video, we have with us Dr. Klyne Snodgrass, who is professor of New Testament at North Park Seminary. The Evangelical Covenant Church is a church that affirms women in ministry. We've written about it, we've engaged it in practice, and we do that not in spite of Scripture, but because of Scripture. We believe that the narrative of Scripture has led us to affirm women in all aspects of ministry. And so we'd like to take a little bit of time looking at the trajectory of women in Scripture, how women are liberated in the story of Scripture, and the variety of roles and gifts that women have for the use of God's church.
Michelle, there are numerous things that we could discuss in a topic like this, and hopefully we'll touch on most of them.
Yeah.
But where do you think we ought to start?
Well, being a person of the book, maybe in the beginning with Genesis, and I think a celebration of women as being in the image of God is a great place to start. The passage in Genesis 1, the first creation story, when the writer talks about God creating humankind in his image, and it's not just males that he creates in his image, but the text says, in the image of God, male and female, he created them. There's this beautiful synergy that both genders offer that reflect the image of God, I think, in a rich wholeness, and that is said to be good.
One of the things that I've often tried to emphasize in this text is that it's not just that men and women are created in the image of God, but that men and women together reflect the image of God. There's something about the communication, not just in marriage, but in terms of all humans, male and female together, reflect the image of God, not just by ourselves.
Yeah.
That seems important to me.
I agree, and it really gets into the idea of the church and the unity of the body, and this seems to be what that is in its most basic form. That if the church, Paul talks about it in terms of membership, but Genesis talks about it in terms of the image of God, that without one, you don't have that fullness of the image. I think the trickier text is the second creation story when in Genesis 2, when the text says, "It's not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper as his partner." And I know that sometimes that text has been translated to be that woman is the helper of man, or that woman is subservient to man, or even potentially less than man. But actually, the Hebrew, which is...
Etzer.
Etzer. In that text is a word that means rescuer and liberator, and it's used 21 times, I believe, in the Old Testament, and 16 of those times it's the word that's used for God himself. So clearly, this text isn't lowering women and saying she's less than in the image of God or in the work of...
Yeah. There's no inferiority there at all. In more relationship, and an important relationship that here is the one who enables the other. And I think it's important also to say with regard to Genesis 2 that there's nothing in Genesis 2 that has to do with hierarchy at all. You start getting those kinds of things after the fall, not in terms of Genesis 1 and 2.
And even after the fall, Klyne, how would you articulate how hierarchy functions?
Well, it depends a lot on how people read Genesis 3 and whether they read it merely as descriptive or prescriptive. That is, are they reading Genesis 3 if this is the way it's supposed to be, or this is the way it is because of the fall?
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. And I think that the text is clearly trying to describe something that is erroneous, that the fall has disrupted the kind of relations that God intended for men and women. And the gospel is directly engaged to change that and to bring things back into focus the way God intended.
Yeah. So we begin our story with the fullness of both men and women as capable of working for God's mission, for God's church, in this case.
Without question. And the real question is, how did we ever think it was otherwise?
Yeah.